So let's dive into some of the nutrition guidelines. So, what do they say, and what does this actually mean? And so, I just invite you again to just have a think about your own experiences at the moment, what stage you're at in your pregnancy, whether you're in that kind of first trimester and your eating feels chaotic, or you feel sick all the time, um, or you only want to eat specific foods, or maybe you're in that kind of middle phase, that second trimester, where you are expecting to suddenly feel better and you're not. Or maybe you are feeling better and you're able to increase your variety of foods that you can eat. Or maybe you're in that third trimester where you're struggling with reflux, or you're struggling to eat, or sleep well, or um, you're wondering what sort of foods to gear up for labor, gear up with for labor. So just think about where you're at and what your pregnancy nutrition is currently looking like. And then I'm going to go through some things. So I often focus on nutrition from a gentle perspective. So really focusing on what you can add into your diet to help enrich and support and enhance your health, rather than what you can kind of restrict and deprive and take away. Of course, there are some things to be aware of, which I'll touch on, and it's important to kind of see that those sort of partial restrictions on food from a place of self-care. It's a short period of time, but hopefully I can help you to feel empowered with things that you can be adding into your diet, because there's a lot of weird and wacky advice out there, and if you're cutting out foods or cutting out food groups, it can set us up to not be in such a great place nutrition wise. So the key thing in pregnancy is actually adequacy, and it's making sure that you're eating enough food, and you're eating a wide variety of foods so that you're getting all the nutrients that you need to look after yourself and your growing baby. There's no specific pregnancy diet. There is some nutrients that are important to consider, but there's no kind of set diet that you need to be going on. So I'm going to be running through how to know how much food you need, a bit about fluid, a bit about protein, a bit about carbs, a bit about fats, fiber, some other nutrients to consider, and then labor foods. And I'll be signposting to any places that I think would be helpful for you to get further information. So yeah, you might want to keep taking notes on this section. Have a think about your kind of usual day, or where you're at the moment, and is there any scope to add anything or make adjustments to your current day. So first things first, how much food do you need? So in pregnancy, extra food is needed for the growth of your fetus, and placenta and various maternal tissues, your fat stores, your uterus, your breasts, and changes that occur in your metabolism, and the increased effort that it just takes at rest to grow your baby. So I had a look on the NHS website and the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, and there was a recommendation to have an additional 200 calories in your third trimester and nothing else in your first and second. And I was a bit taken aback by that kind of being the advice, because it kind of didn't match up with my own experiences of my own appetite. So I went back to the textbooks, I went back to the guidelines, and I was really digging down into like, where have these come from, and why is that recommendation being made? I'm not an advocate of calorie counting, and there's a lot of flaws in calorie counting. There's limitations in, there's errors on food packets, there's variations in what we absorb and use as individuals. So there's lots of, despite me talking about calories, there is lots of flaws in calorie counting. But just as a little quiz to get you thinking, I looked at what the total cost of pregnancy is. So from growing your baby from a cell all the way through to term, This is if you have one baby, by the way. If you've got multiple, then this is, I don't have the stats for that, couldn't find them. But how many calories do you think it requires for your body to grow a whole baby, including all the tissues and all the changes that your body goes through as well? Do you think it's an additional 10,000 calories that your body needs over that 9 or 10 months or whatever it is? Do you think it's an additional 50,000 calories? Or do you think it's an additional 80,000 calories? Feel free to drop that in the notes if you want to throw a guess in. So I've just seen a question about sugar intake. Can it increase your risk of gestational diabetes? Eating sugar doesn't cause diabetes. There are lots of factors that can contribute to that, including your genetics. So you may be offered a gestational diabetes or like a glucose tolerance test. In fact, you might get one of these, which is I got through a letter to have a glucose tolerance test if there's a family history or if you've got sort of any genetic predisposition to that, but certainly not going to cause diabetes by eating sugar or bread or anything like that. Anyway, yeah, Jen, you're right. It's 80,000 calories. That is the cost of pregnancy. So that's a lot of calories. It's a lot of energy that our bodies need in order to grow a baby. So the guidelines say, you know, an additional 200 calories, which is the equivalent of, say, half a cheese sandwich or 4 ginger nut biscuits or a banana and yogurt or a slice of toast with peanut butter, that kind of stuff. But actually, when I looked back at the kind of core textbooks, it said that our bodies require an additional 70 calories in the first trimester, 260 calories in the second trimester, and 500 calories in the third trimester. And the reason that the NHS and the Royal College of Obstetrics and Gynecologists recommend the additional 200 calories only in the third trimester is because there's an anticipated they anticipate that women and birthing people will reduce their energy expenditure or activity levels during pregnancy. So that's why they've kind of lowered it down. And I just wanted you to, know where that's come from. And remember that these are guidelines. There's limitations to calorie counting. So again, I don't really encourage it. And if we were all robots and if everyone was the same and we could understand every physiological process that goes on at one time in your body, then yeah, perhaps you could recommend an exact amount of calories, but that's just not possible. And it may, you may absolutely need more food and you may feel ravenous in your first and second trimesters. And it's important that you honor that. As I said, your first trimester, you might feel like everything feels like chaos. You don't know what you want, and then you do know what you want, and it's really specific. But it can be really unhelpful to be told that you shouldn't eat anymore or you shouldn't gain weight in your first trimester, because this isn't always the case. And many women and birthing people do gain weight in their first trimester. It's not in your control, and everyone's different. So I wanted you to understand where those guidelines come from and to also allow yourself the flexibility to honor your body if you feel that it needs some more food. And equally, if you feel that it doesn't, then that's okay too.